I'm Carrie McCoy. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist and I have a private practice in the Inland Empire. And I'm also an associate faculty in psychology at a local community college. I believe that a lot of people think that it's a weakness because it was taught to them that in this sort of unwritten rule book that softness is not something that we exhibit. And I think everybody, whether they're assigned males at birth, assigned females at birth, we all have that ability to be soft.
My name is Gary. I think when I hear that, it represents a tender heart, but yet you're able to be strong when you need to be and have strength and a form of protection in a sense. So I look at it as a tender heart. That's the way I look at that.
Hi, my name's Amelia. I think just life experience, and to be a little more specific, maybe the experience of being a deeply sensitive person in an environment where that couldn't be displayed openly.
Experiences show you ways to be more in touch with yourself. I don't know that nature was the key motivator of that. I just think it's a part of a bigger picture that gives you that ability to have that.
I think when people first come to therapy, you can tell that they've been holding all of this energy in for a long time. And many people cry a lot in their first few sessions. But there's something, I think, about their willingness that they're tired. It's almost like the jig is up and they realize, I don't want to wear these masks anymore. And so what's really beautiful is I model to them appropriate behavior. Sometimes I cry with them and I am really soft with them because I'm teaching them that it's okay to slow down. We don't have to deflect. We don't have to lose that moment of whatever kind of softness we might be having or emotion. And so I sort of look at it as like a sounding board.
I think writing, it constantly reminds me who I really am. It constantly reminds me of my true feelings, my true values, in the midst of environments where it's not always safe or pragmatic to display those things. So it kind of keeps me in touch maybe with the person, Amelia the person, underneath whatever Amelia the persona is to navigate circumstances.
I think the number one thing and the number one problem that I see in young men is that they don't let their tenderness show. And especially in my generation, society says that a man has to be the pillar of strength for their family. And if a young man can cry at a movie, I think it's beautiful, because it's a sad thing when a man cannot express that side of himself, because men have that. We have that. But in my generation, you weren't allowed to show it. I always have, because I was raised by my mother. So I think having that softness, which I say is a tender heart towards those things, is extremely important for men today.
We're kind of fleshing out what softness as strength means. Softness means self-awareness. If you can't allow yourself that vulnerability, whether it's with other people or privately, you're lacking a lot of self-awareness. You're lacking awareness of other people. And that can really impact your resilience. It can take away a huge source of resilience for you.
Work brings you money. Money goes away, right? Once it goes away, you're working, trying to get that next buck to do that next thing. But if you don't have a life, a true life outside of that, it's a constant battle. So as we were saying, I think it's true, having those three free avenues to go experience nature showed you that life could be beautiful at the same time. And that's why eventually, once I was able to provide for myself pretty well, I could really use that philosophy that this is just a tool to provide this.
Sort of going back to what I mentioned earlier, is it reminds me who I really am, as opposed to sometimes the persona that you need to survive external circumstances. This is Amelia. I'm sharing my real self. I'm telling my real story. It's not the curated version calculated for self-protection because this person over here is full of shit and I don't want them in my business, you know? So yeah, it's my space to take control of my real narrative and be empowered in my own voice.
We have something called a vagus nerve, which is a part of our sympathetic nervous system. It's like our fight or flight. It's an involuntary system, right? But it's what can calm us down. And so children also have what's called mirror neurotransmitters. And so it's essentially, evolutionary psychologists would say, it's so that a child can mimic whatever facial expressions their parent has or caretaker. And so I look at as therapy, like I'm mirroring back to them an appropriate response. I hate to say appropriate because I don't want it to sound like something's inappropriate, but this expansiveness for emotions, let's say that. I'm hoping that society is starting to change and does realize that softness is a strength, because we all have these beautiful parts of us that many of us have been taught to minimize or turn down the volume. So
I always talk about the color of your tapestry. I believe that when my time on earth is gone, my tapestry is going to be very colorful. That's with good experiences and bad experiences. And I really encourage people to don't look at negative experiences as something that's bad, but it's a part of your life that puts color on your tapestry. And I think that's more of an optimistic way to look at it.
So what poetry gives me that nothing else does is a space to be completely uncensored, just complete freedom of expression. Complete freedom of expression, complete vulnerability, and no censoring or mitigating of any emotion, positive or negative. Because there are circumstances, sometimes there's social environments where you even need to, it's not safe to share your positive emotions. So poetry, it's the safe place for everything, everything completely uninhibited.
she has told me that I am her hero. And so I know that she says I'm her hero, and somebody finally protected her. And I have told her that she is my hero, and that she's the one that led me back to myself, and that all of these beautiful parts that were buried, we get to rediscover them, and she was the treasure all along.
When you grow up as a person of color, which I have, you have people trying to tell you you're not going to be anything. And so I would say that my younger person would be very happy with who I've become and what I've accomplished for myself, and the freedoms that I've given myself, and the happiness that I've given myself. The choices that I've made in my life for those freedoms and that happiness and that joy and that love. I would say that my younger child would be very happy.
Oh, she'd be so happy. Yeah. Yeah. She would be thrilled that she not only made it, like she survived, but that she became everything she ever wanted and did not believe that immediate circumstance would ever allow to thrive. Yeah, she'd say, pardon my French, she'd think I'm a badass motherfucker. If I glistened as steel rather than satin, would you have selected me still? Or would you have retreated from a failure of courage and will? Had I appeared more rigid, less fluid, and soft to the hand, would a carry-on such as yourself have swooped down elsewhere to land? But I glisten as satin rather than steel, so scarcely could you have surmised that the satin was draped over metal, a most unpleasant surprise. May your broken beak serve to remind you that softness is not always weak, nor should weakness be viewed as a target for itinerant vultures to seek.